Click the bell icon to get latest videos from Ekeeda.
Hello friends, today we will discuss about index definition in SQL, how to define an index and what is the need for defining an index in SQL, and finally how to delete an index from an SQL. SQL doesn't provide the support for index in this database part. As SQL isn't structured query language, so it does not support indexing in its part because the querying is more like on this data but not the indexing. So the database management system, while storing the data or fetching data for an manually or an conceptually purpose, indexing is fine. But SQL doesn't support it because it automatically builds an index to it in which logic they can fetch and query for a result in this SQL. Now that we are using an index command as our SQL part, it is not a SQL standard definition. We can have this SQL part as attached to it because we can create an index explicitly or by user defined. So the SQL does not support any physical partition of the database schema. It only restricts itself on the logical one. Now when we creating an index on an user defined, we are actually creating an index for the physical definition of schema, not the logical one, because SQL automatically builds up an logical schema indexes that it uses for fetching and querying on the data. Now to create an index on a physical basis using the SQL, we use the create index just like this create table function. So this is the basic format of creating an index in a physical one on SQL, that is create index, the name of the index, on the relation on which we will create the index, and finally the attribute list on which the relation it will be created an index. Say suppose for example I want to create an index on the department relation on the attribute department name. That means department name will be my search key or the indexing field as we will index on the department relation. So we will use search key as the department name, index on this create index, and they say department index as the name on the relation department. So now we can write the proper query as create index, then we will use the name department index on the relation department followed by the attribute list. Here is only one attribute, so we should name one. If there is more than one attribute, then we should separate it by a comma. So the department name is my attribute for the search key or the indexing field. Now what happened if I want to add one constraint to it, like the unique constraint? So I want to add indexing in that basis that department name will be unique. So if there is any repetition in the department name, I will consider only one department name. Like in the biology, if there are 3 or more references from one index biology, it will refer to 3 or 4 indexing or the record information. So to do that, we need to put the unique keyword before creating the index so that we can have that unique constraint to be run on the indexing field on the attribute that we are specifying. Create unique index makes this unique constraint run on the attribute, not the index. So the department name will be considered only once and the references will be made from one of this reference index and go for each of the records that contain the index value. Now the unique constraint has 2 problems in indexing. First one, if there is the unique will be redundant if the department name is already having a unique constraint to it. Say while creating the schema for the department relation, if I put the unique constraint again the department name attribute. So we cannot just put the department name more than once because each of the department will have only one entry. So other than creating this unique index here, so this unique constraint will be redundant. That will be an extra information because already the department name is unique. Now the second problem is if we have made this unique constraint on this index on department name, and now we are creating information to such way that we are creating more and more department names. We are creating a tuple of information to which the department name is duplicated. So that will make violent the actually process, and then it will cause an error. Now, if I made this unique index department int, the third problem is if I want to enter in the index a duplicated department name, then it will cause an error and then fail to successfully create the unique index department IND, telling that this department IND index is violating the unique constraint. Now again, if the unique constraint is made on the index and successfully creating after that want to make the duplicating index, then also it will create an error, making the insertion to the table index false. So these are the things we need to keep in mind while creating a unique index. Now how to drop an index or delete an index from a table? We can just use drop index name. So this drop index department int will just delete the index on this department relation and now can have the logical schema definition index by the SQL only. So when we imply a physical index by SQL, then we can have it only for the user part. No SQL will have such index built into their memory database that will be used by the SQL to fetch or query on the result. They will use their own logical schema definition for indexing. So that is all for index definition in SQL. Thank you for watching it. Stay tuned with Ekeeda and subscribe to Ekeeda.